Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's another great day to discuss other people's excellence. I'm the unforgettable one himself, Mr. Brett Carroll, and I'm just a guy that always BS at work. Okay, here we are at rounds 2 and 3 of this post Stefon Diggs trade mock. Um, I guess I'll go over round one real quick. We had a lot of trades in this one. I originally, before the Stefon Diggs trade, I wanted to do one last mock where I just went crazy with trades. Um, and I guess I kind of combined both of that with this. So, uh, the Vikings trading up to get Drake May, the Broncos trading up to get JJ McCarthy, the Bills trading up to get Roma Doomsday, the Raiders trading up to get Bo Nix. With those trade downs, the Patriots and Giants took Dallas Turner and Brian Thomas respectfully, as well as Brock Bowers going to the Bears respectfully. I had the Eagles going up for Quinion Mitchell. Uh, the Cardinals moving up for Terry and Arnold. The Patriots getting A.D. Mitchell with that second part of the trade. And I think that was it for, and then the Falcons getting Nate Wiggins as that second part of the trade. And yeah, I think that's everything for the first round. So, all right, let's get into rounds 2 and 3. All right, so starting off with round two, I took Xavier Legette for the Panthers. They haven't been shy at all with the fact that they really like him, and it makes sense. They need a guy like him. He's an incredible player. And if he's still here in the second round, I think that's who they'll take. Patriots take Michael Penix Jr. with 34. The Steelers with that trade down with the Cardinals, they take Keon Coleman at 35. Washington takes Tyler Guyton. The Chargers took Troy Franklin. Again, just they need what receivers. I know they got neighbors. Troy Franklin went to Oregon. I think he's a guy that uh Justin Herbert would vouch for. If he does if they want to go, if they want to double dip at receiver, which they definitely could. They lost their top two wide receivers, and right now there's nobody on the roster that you can really trust. So double dipping at wide receiver wasn't the worst thing in the world. So that's why I went with Troy Franklin. Chop Robinson getting an edge for Washington. Um, and then I went Zach Frazier for the Panthers. They need a center. Zach Frazier made a lot of sense to just take now, because by the time they pick again, there might not be a center available. Um, the Eagles with Lad McConkey, was that a trade that I did? I just want to make sure. Yes. So this was Tennessee. This was Tennessee. I had them trade down with the Eagles so they could get Lad McConkey. Green Bay took Tyler Newbin. Brandon Fisk went to Houston. That this was their first pick of the draft. Chris Braswell getting an edge. So a lot of people. That's funny. We usually have Dallas Turner going to the Falcons. Um, at pick number 9, they get the other Alabama edge rusher here at 43. The Raiders on the board, I took Darius Robinson to help shore up the defensive line. Um, Peyton Wilson, I think I had the Cowboys trade up for this pick, if I remember correctly. I did. Yeah, Dallas trade up to get their linebacker of the future to help out in the trenches with that front seven. Dallas really values their linebackers. So we're getting a good one here made a lot of sense. Roman Wilson going to the Colts. Ennis Rakestraw Jr., I just thought this was a really good player still on the board. I wanted him to get drafted. So I had the Giants take him. Then I had Cleveland trade up to get Aurora, a really good player. I think he's somebody that they would value a lot. And over Chris Jenkins, I usually have them take Chris Jenkins. I said, well, let me just switch up the player a little bit. and jumping over the Bengals to get him, it forced the Bengals to take Chris Jenkins. Jalen Polk going to Washington. Um, they want some wide receiver help. And I thought at the time that he was the highest receiver on my board at the time, so that's who I took. I had the Steelers take Kingsley Sumatea as a very powerful yet developmental tackle. I think they would want to wait on tackle because they believe that they can develop a guy. Do the same thing they did with Roger Jones, right? Have him not start at the beginning of the year, coach him up, and hopefully by the halfway point they can insert him into the starting lineup. Kingsley Sumatea fits that bill. He's a mauler. He just needs to get some things touched up with his technique. They have the guys to do that. And yeah, they'll be more than happy to do that. Another tackle is taken right afterwards, Jordan Morgan going to the Rams. I have Max Melton going to Indy. So this is the corner that they took in that trade down from Philly. Um, Made a lot of sense and just got a little bit more value for that. Jacksonville they're the ones that traded down with Cleveland and they get Cedric Van Pran. Again, trying to get a little bit more value on the pick. I like Cedric Van Pran. He's a guy that has a lot of upside, but again, I know it's a little bit early for him on a lot of people's boards. So that's why I had Jacksonville trade down before I had them make this pick. These are Isaac Edge going to the Dolphins. And then another edge going with Braylon Trice. We actually had a run of three edges. Braylon Trice going to Dallas, and then Jonah Ellis going to Tampa Bay. Green Bay taking Kieran Arbagetti from Yale as a tackle. They need all help on that offensive line. Their offensive line is always hurt. This guy could be their guy for the future. Houston, had them taking Edrin Cooper. You know they're going to want to show up that defense, and to me, he might be my linebacker one. Um, and so I love the fit, and I think him with D'Amico Ryan's coaching him up, he could be a special, special, special player for them. Atlanta, continuing to work on that defensive line with Tavondre Sweat. Detroit taking Christian Haynes to shore up the offensive line. Uh, Baltimore going to Jermaine Burton. I think he'd be a great fit for them and what they're trying to do. Patrick Paul as a tackle for San Francisco, and Marshawn Nealon as an edge rusher for Kansas City, and that rounds out round two. Round three, I had the Panthers take Jatavion Sanders, tight end out of Texas. They've been needing a tight end for the longest time, and hopefully this is the answer. Christian Mahogany going to the Cardinals, again showing up that offensive line. Theo Johnson going to Washington. Blake Fisher going to New England. Blake Corum, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to mock this every time. If Blake Corum is on the board, I think the Chargers take him. They need a running back. He's the guy that helped deliver a championship for Jim Harbaugh. He's going to take his guy. That's an easy pick. Cooper Beebe, I know a lot of Giants fans, shout out Joe, wants this pick to be done, so I oblige Cooper Beebe to the Giants. Ricky Pearsall, I know they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., but they need more wide receivers. And spoiler alert, this won't be the last receiver I draft for them. So Ricky Pearsall going to the Cardinals. Did they have them? Is that a trade up? No, that's just a regular. That's their Javon Baker going to the Jets. Um, Again, because I had them passive on Brock Bowers at 10, I said, let me get them a weapon here. I really, really like Javon Baker. He's somebody that I think Aaron Rodgers would really love to have on his team. The Steelers, I had them trade up with Detroit. Detroit was here. I had them trade up to take Sanstra. This guy is Mike Hilton. We loved Mike Hilton here in Pittsburgh. We haven't had a great slot since he left. This guy does everything Mike Hilton does, and he might even be better than Mike Hilton. So this is a guy, when I saw that he was still on the board, I said, somebody's got to draft him, and who not better than my Steelers? So I had them trade up to get him. Jalen McMillan going to the Falcons, giving them just another weapon to throw to. Kirk Cousins love having his weapons. You can never have enough. So that's why I did that. Gabriel Murphy going to Chicago, getting some edge help. Had the Giants take Spencer Rattler. Normally I would, as I explained in the first draft mock, I don't think all these quarterbacks could or should go in the first round, but in this mock they did. So instead of the Giants reaching on a guy in the second round, they just waited till the third round. Spencer Rattler was still there. They went and made that pick. 77, Michael Hall Jr. going to Chicago. Again, just fixing up that defensive line, making sure the defense is as good as possible. Now that Caleb Williams has all the weapons he needs, just keep fixing the trenches on the other side. There was already a really good defense last year towards the end of the year. They're hoping it to be even better this year. Javon Bullard going to Washington at 78. Just best player available at the time. He kept falling. I wanted him to get drafted. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, cool. 79. I had the Dallas Cowboys move up with Atlanta to take Jonathan Brooks. Again, they need a running back. He went to Texas. I know he had the injury, but I think he'll be fine. And Cowboys are gonna love him. At 80, I had Cincinnati take Ben Snot from Kansas State. Best tight end on the board. They need a tight end. It made a lot of sense. Seattle taking Jordan Hicks. They need a safety from Washington State. I'm assuming that they would have a lot of tape on him. Then I had Indy trade down with Pittsburgh again to take Kyrie Jackson. The corners positions is like the two positions we needed the most. And I figured, you know what? We traded down in the first round, got some extra capital. We took care of most of the needs. Let's go ahead and make sure we get this cornerback room settled. It's a room that has not been settled in a long, long time. So I just said screw our day three picks, basically. Let's just go up there and get the two guys that I know we're gonna want, and Mike Central and Kyrie Jackson. Junior Colson going to the Rams. Um Detroit, this was the trade down that they had with us. So they're here at 84, taking Tanner Bornolini, center out of Washington. Just a big mauler who's going to help them in the trenches, do what they want to do offensively. The Browns sitting pretty with Jeremiah Trotter falling right into their laps. They'll be thrilled with that. Houston. Look, I know they traded for Stefon Diggs, but they voided the rest of his contract, so he really only has 1 year left. Why not get another young receiver to develop just in case you let Stefon Diggs walk in the offseason? Tez Walker is one of those guys. He's got a lot of talent. He just needs to be developed a little bit better. This situation will be perfect for him because he doesn't have to start right away. He doesn't have to play a lot. He could play special teams maybe and help develop him. So if Stefon Diggs does decide to walk, you have another guy that could come in right in after that and be part of the crew. Be part of that trio, that nice trio that you already have with him, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. Atlanta taking a slot corner and Andrew Phillips. Green Bay at this point, I was taking best player available. He was still on the Marist Liafau. I think that's how you pronounce it. I could be wrong. But again, a guy that I just believe that they would probably have a lot of tape on and would be interested in. Tampa Bay, Trey Benson. I know I do this a lot, but again, he's sitting there at 89. They need a running back. It makes a lot of sense. Why not do it? And then again, I told you, spoiler alert, more wide receivers for Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. Malachi Corley as a slot receiver sounds so dangerous, especially you got Marvin Harrison Jr. on one side, Ricky Pierce on the other. Malachi Corley, they have a nice young trio of receivers that they could develop, all with different skill sets. I think that's why I like this so much. It gives you different flavors, different ways you have to match up. You can't just do one thing against this team. They're gonna have a blast with that receiving core. This dude he'll probably play the slot, but he's big. He's great center of balance. He's hard to tackle. Great after the catch. And then again, you have Marvin Harrison Jr. as your number one, Ricky Pearsall hopefully as your number two, and then this guy being the slot man, and maybe he's the number two. Like again, I just love this idea of giving them a nice young trio of receivers. Green Bay at 91 taking Jamari Thrash again, just best player available, and they can use some help. I know they have young receivers, but adding to that room wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Tampa Bay again here, taking Bo Limmer at center. Makes a lot of sense. Uh, Baltimore here at 93. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. Taking Renardo Green. They need some corner help. Best corner available. Then I have the other Florida State corner and Jerry and Jones going to San Francisco. Kansas City still fixing that defensive line and keep polishing that up with Brandon Dorless. I know they re-signed Chris Jones, but again, he is getting older. Getting Brandon Dorless in there to help with that depth, it works. Johnny Wilson made a lot of sense to me for Jacksonville. Um, Again, just BPA and a guy that they can use. They have again for some reason they keep just getting these short, fast receivers, and maybe that's what Trevor Lawrence likes. But having a big, tall guy that could also be basically a tight end, I think that's something that they would love, especially Lorenzo. Just throw it up and let him go get it. Uh, Again, BPA again. Jalen Wright still being here for Cincinnati makes a lot of sense. They lost Joe Mixon. I know they have some running backs that they would like to replace him with, but getting another guy in there in the mix wouldn't be the worst in the world. Cam Kitchens for uh the Colts makes a lot of sense. Just continue to build that the DB room and make that defense. Like, look, you see their division. They're gonna have to deal with Trevor Lawrence. Now they got to deal with C.J. Stroud. They believe they have a quarterback themselves in Anthony Richardson, but again, you're gonna have to defend against those other great young quarterbacks in your division for a long time. Loading up in the defensive back room isn't the worst thing in the world. Um, the Rams taking Austin Booker. Again, BPA, a guy that could help, be a part of that defensive line going forward. And then with the last pick in the draft, last time I went Kalen Bullock, I was gonna go Kalen Bullock again, but I already gave him is it Javon Bullard? Is his last name? Oh, Javon Bullard. Yeah, I already gave him Javon Bullard for safety, so I'm not gonna double dip at the safety position. So let's just see. They could go Brandon Rice, just getting, or they could go Dominic Puny here. They could go Dominic Puny here to help with the offensive line. Let's see what other offensive linemen are available real quick before I make that decision. I kind of like Christian Jones better. Yeah, let's go Christian Jones. So we will go Christian Jones for Washington. All right. So that is the draft. Thank you so much for tuning in. You can find me at Never For Brett Me. That's NEVA underscore the number for BRETT underscore ME. I'm sorry, ME underscore. Wait, right? I'm sorry, it's late. I'm doing all this on one day. It's Never For Brett Me, NEVA underscore the number for BRETT underscore ME. Right, there we go. That's on all the socials. You can find us at the underscore dope blog on Instagram and Threads, where the dope blog on one word on Twitter. And because you are watching this on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. And join us next time as we continue to discuss other people's excellence. Deuces.